In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to make this little part of an ellipse compress and stretch both horizontally and vertically as I change A and B. So if I move, let's just start with A. The rest of the construction is doing what I want it to do, right? As A gets larger, it stretches away. As A gets smaller, stretches away from the x-axis. As A gets smaller, it compresses towards the x-axis. So that's the behavior we want to see with A. With B, as B gets larger, we see compression towards Y, and as B gets smaller, we see stretching away from Y. Okay, so visually, that's what we're trying to do. And I already have this function set up so that I'm going to hide the original so that H and K work. Let me again hide the restriction because I don't want to think about the restriction right now. Let's just think about what to do with A and what to do with B. Okay, now in the other functions, if I were to open some of these up, you can see that B was being multiplied by the X, right? That seemed to be a thing that B was doing. So let's imagine that I had the same kind of setup here and just put a B there. Let's see if that works then. Looks to me like it's compressing correctly. One thing to note here is if I had put B on the outside rather than the inside, so now this B is not being squared, right? Let's see how this looks. Okay, so visually, one thing that I pick up here is that it's not stretching and compressing at the same rate as everything else. The other, right? It's a little bit slower. So that's one thing to note is if I put the B inside, when these things stretch and compress, they do it at sort of the same rate. Okay. Now, this is, again, thinking about the window. If I put the window back in, this window is in terms of y, and so it's probably not going to matter. Yeah, like the window doesn't need any of that b involved in it, right? Okay. So that means a is going to be with my other quantity here. Let's just try putting A in the same sort of spot that we put B. Let's just try putting A right there and see if I get this should be a stretch away as I make this bigger. Oh, and it looks like it's not doing that. So let me again remove the window. See what it's doing. So as A gets bigger, instead of stretching away, it compresses towards the x-axis, and it's got sort of the opposite behavior. This is a great thing to see because the way that we deal with that is if it's got the opposite behavior, we think about the inverse operation. So instead of multiplying by A, we'll multiply by 1 over A, right? Because 1 over A, same as dividing by A, that's the inverse operation for multiplication. And there we get that kind of stretching that we want. And now we just need to incorporate that into our window. So let me put the window back in. And let me put the same 1 over A in here and see if that takes care of it. All right, that looks pretty good. Now, there are a lot of different specifics that can make this particular kind of thing more challenging. So one of the big ways to troubleshoot is to first remove the window and make sure that you're seeing the behavior that you want in the function. So with horizontal compressions or stretches and vertical stretches and compressions, we should see the behavior that we want first, then put the window back in and work on tweak the window so that it looks the way you want it to look. But it's really important that you don't try just troubleshooting this with a window, because there can be, right, the window can actually be the problem, not the function. And it's very hard to pick up on that unless you've done this quite a bit.